You probably told yourself this before, I'm just lazy. But what if that's not true? What if you're not lazy at all? You're just constantly distracted. Distracted by notifications, distracted by comparison, distracted by noise, opinions, pressure, and endless information. We live in a world that pulls our attention in 1,000 directions and then blames us for not moving forward. The truth is, lazy people don't feel guilty for wasting time. They don't lie awake at night thinking about who they could become. If you feel frustrated with yourself, if you feel behind, if you feel capable of more, that's not laziness. That's untapped potential trapped in distraction. This video isn't about working harder. It's about seeing clearly again, about reclaiming your focus, your discipline, and your direction. If you're ready to stop blaming yourself and start understanding what's really holding you back, you're in the right place. Before we begin, subscribe to this channel for real, honest conversations about growth, focus, and becoming better than yesterday. And comment below what distracts you the most right now. Let's talk. Let's say this clearly, because most people need to hear it without sugarcoating. You are not lazy, you are exhausted from being overstimulated. From the moment you wake up, your mind is under attack. Notifications, headlines, messages, opinions, comparisons, endless scrolling. Before you've even had a chance to think your own thoughts, the world has already filled your head with noise. And then we wonder why it feels so hard to focus, why starting feels heavy, why progress feels impossible. Your brain was never designed to process this much input all day, every day. Every alert pulls your attention. Every scroll demands a reaction. Every comparison steals a piece of your confidence. By the time you sit down to work on something meaningful, your energy is already drained. Not because you didn't want to act, but because your focus was spent everywhere else. This is why you feel stuck. Not because you lack ambition, but because your ambition is buried under stimulation. When your attention is constantly fractured, even simple tasks feel overwhelming. Starting feels painful. Finishing feels rare. And the worst part, you blame yourself for it. You tell yourself you're lazy, undisciplined, broken. But look closer. Lazy people don't feel frustrated about wasted potential. Lazy people don't crave growth. Lazy people don't feel the tension between who they are and who they want to become. If you feel that tension, that restlessness, that quiet disappointment at the end of the day, that's not laziness. That's a focused mind trying to exist in a distracted world. Overstimulation creates a specific kind of paralysis. You feel busy but not productive, tired but not fulfilled, consumed but not satisfied. You move all day yet go nowhere. And over time, that disconnect eats away at your self-trust. You start doubting your ability to follow through. You start shrinking your goals. You start settling. But here's the shift that changes everything. Progress doesn't begin when you work harder. It begins when you protect your attention. Focus is not a personality trait. It's a boundary. It's deciding what gets access to your mind and what doesn't. It's choosing depth over noise, intention over impulse. When you reduce to chaos, your energy returns, your clarity sharpens, and suddenly action doesn't feel like a fight anymore. You don't need to become a different person. You need a quieter environment for the person you already are to function. So ask yourself, honestly, what is overstimulating your life right now? What is draining your focus without giving anything back? Drop a comment below and name one distraction you're ready to take control of. Not tomorrow. Not someday, today. Clarity begins with awareness, and progress begins the moment you stop letting the noise decide your life. Discipline used to mean willpower, grinding, forcing yourself to push through, but that definition is outdated. In the world we live in now, attention is the real discipline. Not how hard you work, but what you give your mind to every single day. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't become what you want. You become what you pay attention to. Your habits are shaped by your focus. Your emotions are shaped by your focus. Even your confidence is shaped by your focus. If your attention is constantly split between distractions, drama, comparison, and noise, your life will start to reflect that fragmentation. You'll feel scattered because your mind is scattered. Every day you are training your brain, whether you realize it or not. When you check your phone first thing in the morning, you're training your brain to react instead of lead. When you jump between tasks without finishing, you're training yourself to avoid depth. When you consume content without intention, you're teaching your mind to crave stimulation instead of progress. That's not a lack of discipline. That is discipline, just aimed in the wrong direction. True discipline today isn't about forcing productivity for 12 hours straight. It's about guarding your attention like it matters, because it does. Your attention is your life force. Wherever it goes consistently, your future follows. Look at your daily focus, and you'll see your long-term results forming in real time. What you scroll becomes what you normalize. What you consume becomes what you believe is possible. What you repeatedly think about becomes what you act on or avoid. This is why so many people feel busy but unfulfilled. They give their best mental energy to things that don't move their life forward. And then they wonder why there's nothing left for their goals. Attention is quiet. It doesn't announce itself, but it compounds. Small moments of focus, repeated daily, shape identity. If you give your attention to growth, learning, and meaningful effort, you slowly become someone who grows. If you give it to distraction, comparison, and escape, you slowly become someone who feels behind. And the shift isn't dramatic. It's subtle. It's choosing to finish one task instead of opening another tab. It's sitting with discomfort instead of reaching for your phone. It's deciding again and again what deserves access to your mind. You don't need more motivation. You need clearer focus. Because when your attention is disciplined, action follows naturally. Confidence builds quietly. Progress stops feeling forced. And life starts moving in the direction you've been hoping for. So be honest with yourself. What gets most of your attention right now? And is it shaping the life you actually want? Comment below and share one thing you're going to give less attention to, and one thing you're going to give more. Your future isn't shaped by big decisions once in a while. It's shaped by what you focus on today. Most people aren't stuck because they're doing nothing. They're stuck because they're doing too much of the wrong things. Their days are full. Their calendars are packed. Their minds are constantly racing, and yet at the end of the week, nothing meaningful has moved forward. Goals are still untouched. Dreams are still delayed, and the same quiet frustration shows up again. That's because busyness is a clever disguise. It feels productive. It looks responsible. It gives you something to point at when you're avoiding the work that actually matters. But being occupied and moving forward are not the same thing. Busyness keeps you reacting. Progress requires you to decide. Answering messages, checking emails, scrolling, switching tasks. These things create motion without direction. You stay active, but you don't build momentum. And over time, that constant motion becomes exhausting. You feel tired not because you worked deeply, but because your attention was pulled in 100 directions without purpose. The danger of busyness is that it lies to you. It whispers, "You're doing enough." It convinces you that effort equals progress, but progress only happens when your actions are aligned with a clear outcome. Without that alignment, you can work all day and still stay exactly where you are. This is why so many people feel burned out and unfulfilled at the same time. They're spending energy but not creating results. They're checking boxes but not building a life. And slowly, without realizing it, they start lowering their expectations of themselves. Progress is quieter than busyness. It often looks boring from the outside. It requires saying no to distractions, to unnecessary tasks, to the comfort of staying busy instead of staying focused. It demands that you choose one meaningful thing and give it your full attention, even when it doesn't provide instant feedback or validation. Real progress asks a harder question: what actually moves my life forward? Not what keeps me busy, not what makes me look productive, but what creates change. When you start measuring your days by progress instead of activity, everything shifts. You stop chasing urgency and start building direction. You trade constant motion for intentional movement. And for the first time, your effort begins to feel rewarding. You don't need a fuller schedule. You need clearer priorities. So pause and reflect. What are you busy with that isn't truly helping you grow? And what important work have you been avoiding because it requires focus and courage? Comment below and share one thing you're ready to stop doing and one thing you're ready to focus on instead. Because being busy can keep you distracted for years. Progress is what actually changes your life. Distraction doesn't just steal your time, it steals your peace. At first it feels harmless. A quick scroll, a short break, something to take the edge off. But hours later, when the day is over and nothing important got done, something heavier settles in: guilt. Quiet, uncomfortable guilt, the kind that doesn't shout, but sits with you when you're alone. And that's where the real damage happens. Distraction creates a cycle that's hard to see while you're inside it. You avoid the work because it feels uncomfortable or overwhelming. You distract yourself to escape that discomfort. Then when the moment passes, you blame yourself for wasting time. That self-blame drains your confidence. And with less confidence, starting tomorrow feels even harder, so you'll avoid again. Avoid, distract, regret, repeat. This cycle doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. But if you don't interrupt it, it slowly reshapes how you see yourself. You stop trusting your own intentions. You begin to expect failure before you even try. And eventually you mistake guilt for accountability and shame for motivation. But guilt doesn't build discipline, it builds paralysis. When your mind associates effort with shame, it looks for escape. And distraction becomes the easiest exit. Not because you don't care, but because caring hurts when you keep letting yourself down. Here's the truth most people miss. Growth doesn't come from punishing yourself after a distracted day. It comes from understanding why you escaped in the first place. Was the task unclear, too big, too emotionally loaded, too tied to fear of failure? Distraction is often a signal, not a flaw. It's your mind telling you that something feels unsafe, uncertain, or overwhelming. If you listen to that signal instead of judging it, you regain control. You stop fighting yourself and start working with yourself. Growth begins when you replace self-law-ness, self-honesty. Instead of saying, "I'm lazy," you ask, "What am I avoiding?" Instead of saying, "I wasted today," you ask, "What felt hard to face?" Those questions open doors. Guilt closes them. The moment you take one small intentional step, even after a distracted day, the cycle weakens. Action restores self-trust, not perfection, not intensity, just honest movement forward. So if you've been carrying guilt for days, weeks, or years, let it go. Guilt won't move you forward. Awareness will. Ask yourself right now, what am I avoiding and why? Comment below and share one thing you've been avoiding and one small step you're willing to take today. Growth doesn't begin when you shame yourself. It begins when you stop running from yourself. Motivation is unreliable. It shows up when life feels easy and disappears the moment things get uncomfortable. If you've been waiting to feel motivated before you act, you've been waiting on something that was never meant to lead you. Clarity is what moves people forward. When you're unclear, everything feels heavy. Every task feels bigger than it is. You hesitate, overthink, procrastinate. Not because you're lazy, but because your mind doesn't know where to go. Uncertainty drains energy. Confusion creates resistance. And no amount of motivational quotes can fix that. But when your direction is clear, action becomes simpler. Not easier, simpler. You don't argue with yourself as much. You don't waste energy deciding what to do next. You just move. Think about the moments in your life when you made the fastest progress. Chances are you weren't relying on motivation. You had clarity. You knew what mattered. You knew what you were working toward. Even when it was hard, you kept going because the path was visible. Clarity reduces friction and turns overwhelming goals into manageable steps. It replaces emotional hesitation with logical next actions. And most importantly, it quiets the noise in your head that says, "I don't know where to start." This is why people feel stuck even when they care deeply. Caring without clarity creates frustration. You want more from life, but you don't know how to move toward it, so you freeze. And then you blame yourself for not trying hard enough. But effort without direction just leads to exhaustion. Clarity doesn't mean having your whole life figured out. It means knowing the next honest step. One priority, one focus, one direction for today. When you decide that, your energy stops leaking everywhere else. You don't need motivation to do what's clear. You don't need hype to follow a path you understand. Direction creates its own momentum. And here's the uncomfortable part. Clarity often requires letting go. Letting go of options, of distractions, of trying to do everything at once. Clarity asks you to choose, and choosing feels risky. But staying unclear costs far more in the long run. If you've been waiting to feel inspired, stop. Get clear instead. Ask yourself, what actually matters right now? What is one thing that, if done consistently, would move my life forward? Comment below and share one area of your life where you're choosing clarity over confusion. Motivation will come and go. Clarity is what keeps you moving when it does. Confidence doesn't disappear overnight, it erodes slowly. It fades every time you promise yourself you'll start tomorrow, and don't. Every time you avoid something you know matters. Every time you choose distraction over intention, over time those moments stack up, and suddenly you don't trust yourself the way you used to. That's the part no one talks about. Loss of confidence isn't about talent or intelligence, it's about broken self-trust. And here's the mistake most people make. They try to rebuild confidence with motivation. They wait for a surge of energy, a perfect morning, a powerful mood. But motivation doesn't repair trust. Action does. Not massive action. Focused action. One small intentional step taken seriously does more for your confidence than 100 inspirational thoughts. Because confidence isn't a feeling, it's evidence. Evidence that when you decide to do something, you follow through. When you take a small action and complete it, something subtle shifts inside you. Your mind registers it. I said I would do this, and I did. That moment matters more than you think. It's a quiet vote for your identity. A reminder that you are capable of moving forward. This is why trying to change everything at once backfires. Big goals feel inspiring, but they also feel fragile. One missed day and the whole plan collapses. Small focused actions, on the other hand, are sturdy. They survive bad days, they don't require hype. They just require presence. Confidence grows when your actions match your intentions, even in tiny ways. Send the email, write one paragraph, take a 10-minute walk, show up for 5 minutes longer than you want to. Those actions may feel insignificant, but they are not. They rebuild the relationship you have with yourself. And once that relationship starts healing, momentum returns naturally. You stop negotiating with your own potential. You stop doubting whether you can follow through. Self-trust is built the same way it's lost, through repetition, one step at a time. If you've been feeling unsure, stuck, or disconnected from your own confidence, don't try to fix your mindset first. Fix your actions. Choose one small thing you can complete today and complete it fully. Let that be enough. So ask yourself right now, what is one small focused action I can take today, and finish. Comment below and share the one step you're committing to take today, no matter how small. Confidence doesn't come from believing in yourself. It comes from proving to yourself that you can be trusted again. Your future isn't built in dramatic moments. It's built quietly, in what you pay attention to when no one is watching. Every day you wake up with a limited amount of focus, and whether you realize it or not, you spend it on conversations, on screens, on worries, on habits, on things that either move your life forward or keep it exactly where it is. Over time, those small choices become your direction. Focus today becomes your life tomorrow. What you consistently give your attention to shapes your thoughts. Your thoughts shape your actions. Your actions shape your identity. And your identity shapes your future. This isn't philosophy, it's cause and effect. You don't drift into a meaningful life. You focus your way into it. The problem is, attention leaks easily. It gets pulled by urgency instead of importance, by comfort instead of growth, by noise instead of intention. And when your focus is scattered, your future becomes unclear. You start reacting to life instead of designing it. This is why so many people feel behind without knowing why. They didn't make one big mistake. They just kept giving their attention to things that didn't compound. Entertainment without limits. Distraction without boundaries. Opinions that never turned into action. None of that feels dangerous in the moment, but years later, the results show up. Your attention is an investment, and like any investment, it compounds. What you feed daily grows. If you feed distraction, it grows into regret. If you feed focus, it grows into skill, clarity, and confidence. The future version of you is being shaped right now. Not by your intentions, not by your goals, but by what you allow to dominate your mind on an average day. That future version will either thank you for protecting your focus or wish you had taken it more seriously. You don't need to control everything. You don't need perfect discipline, but you do need awareness. You need to notice where your attention goes when you're tired, bored, or overwhelmed, because that's where habits are formed. Choosing focus isn't about restriction. It's about direction. It's about deciding what matters enough to receive your energy. When you get that right, your days align, your actions sharpen, and your life starts to move with purpose instead of drift. So pause and reflect. Honestly, what are you feeding your attention right now? And is it building the future you actually want? Comment below and share one thing you're going to give less attention to and one thing you're going to protect your focus for. Your future isn't waiting on motivation, it's waiting on your attention. When you step back and look at everything we've talked about, one truth ties it all together. You were never broken. You were never lazy. You were never incapable. You were distracted, overstimulated, and pulled away from what mattered. And then blamed yourself for the damage that distraction caused. We live in a world that steals attention and then judges us for losing focus. A world that rewards busyness but ignores progress. A world that teaches us to escape discomfort instead of facing it. And slowly, without realizing it, we start to shrink. We lower our expectations. We stop trusting ourselves. But the moment you see what's really happening, everything changes. You realize discipline isn't about force, it's about focus. That motivation isn't the answer, clarity is. That confidence isn't found in thinking. It's rebuilt through small, intentional action. Growth doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for honesty. Honesty about what distracts you. Honesty about what you avoid. Honesty about where your attention goes when no one is watching, because your life is not shaped by a single decision or a sudden breakthrough. It's shaped by daily choices that feel small in the moment, but powerful over time. Every time you protect your focus, you regain a piece of self-trust. Every time you choose progress over comfort, you weaken the cycle that kept you stuck. You don't need to fix everything today. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to choose one thing that matters and give it your full attention. That's how momentum starts. That's how confidence returns. That's how your future quietly begins to change. So don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start by reclaiming your attention. Because the life you want isn't built by chance. It's built by what you choose to focus on starting now.